In a town built on make-believe, some connections are too real to ignore. Warren Beatty and Goldie Hawn weren't just Hollywood royalty, they were electric. At the height of their fame, when both could have had anyone, they found each other. Rumors swirled, headlines followed, and for a moment, it seemed like the perfect match had been written in the stars. But just as quickly as it began, the spark faded, leaving behind questions, whispers, and a story that's still talked about today. Why didn't they last? Why didn't he marry her? After decades of silence, Warren Beatty is finally opening up, and the truth behind their untold chapter will leave you stunned. Yet, just as quickly as the whispers of a Hollywood power couple began, the dream quietly slipped away, and the truth behind their fading connection became one of Tinseltown's most enduring mysteries. For decades, fans were left wondering why Warren Beatty, known for his charm and whirlwind romances, never walked down the aisle with Goldie Hawn. But now, after years of silence and speculation, Warren has finally broken his silence. And what he's revealed isn't just surprising, it shatters long-held assumptions and forces us to see both stars in a new light. With unfiltered honesty, Beatty's revelation gives rare insight into his personal fears, ambitions, and the emotional complexity behind his choices. It's not just a story of love lost, it's about the weight of fame, the cost of vulnerability, and the price of timing. Warren Beatty's journey through Hollywood is marked by bold decisions and dramatic reinventions. Born Henry Warren Beatty on March 30, 1937, in Richmond, Virginia, he was raised in a home steeped in intellect and art, the kind of environment that would shape not only his worldview but also the cinematic legacy he would later create. From rebellious heartthrob to Oscar-winning filmmaker, Beatty didn't just navigate Hollywood, he helped redefine it. Though the spelling of his surname would later be changed for professional distinction, Warren Beatty's passion for storytelling was never in doubt. From a young age, he displayed an unshakable fascination with the craft of acting and the emotional depth of cinema. His early years weren't adorned with glitz and glamour, but they were fueled by raw determination, ambition, and an unwavering curiosity that would eventually lead him to the center of Hollywood spotlight. Between 1955 and 1959, Beatty enrolled at Northwestern University, drawn to its renowned theater program. But the structured classroom could never contain his restless creative spirit. Like so many visionaries before him, he made the bold decision to drop out and chase his dream full-time, a move that would set the stage for one of the most dynamic and transformative careers in film history. By 1957, he had already begun carving out his place in the industry, landing roles in acclaimed television anthologies like Studio One and Playhouse 90. These early performances revealed a magnetic presence, a young actor who wasn't just passing through, he was here to leave a mark. By the time 1967 rolled around, Warren Beatty had evolved into far more than a promising face on a screen. He was now a driving force in the entertainment world, a producer, actor, and creative visionary who wasn't afraid to challenge Hollywood norms. His rise wasn't meteoric by accident, it was built on risk, resilience, and an instinct for stories that moved hearts and stirred controversy. He starred in and produced the movie Bonnie and Clyde that year, which would go on to change Hollywood cinema. Gritty, fashionable, and surprisingly violent for its era, the film defied expectations and conventional storytelling. It solidified Beatty's reputation as a risk-taker and innovator and garnered numerous Oscar nods. Acting was not enough for him. His goal was to have an impact on the types of tales that Hollywood was making and how they were told. Even into the 1970s, the impetus persisted. Beatty and Elizabeth Taylor co-starred in the 1970 movie The Only Game in Town, which brought two of Hollywood's most recognizable characters together on screen. Although the film itself didn't have a significant cultural influence, it demonstrated Beatty's ongoing commitment in collaborating with elite talent and delving into nuanced personalities. Shampoo, which he co-wrote, produced, and starred in, followed in 1975. A humorous look at politics, sex, and social conventions. In addition to being a box office hit, the movie made a scathing critique of the changing morals of the time. Through his movies, Beatty was now more than just a celebrity, he was a cultural critic. He went one step further in 1978 when he wrote, directed, produced, and starred in the movie Heaven Can Wait. The narrative, which was nominated for several Academy Awards, successfully merged comedy, fantasy, and romance to appeal to a broad audience. The extent of his engagement demonstrated Beatty's level of commitment to the creative process and his desire for complete control over the finished result. His future work would be distinguished by this broad approach. Reds, the epic film about journalist John Reed, who documented the Russian Revolution, was ambitious in both scope and subject matter and was produced by Beatty in 1981. It is widely regarded as his masterpiece. The picture, which Beatty co-wrote, directed, produced, and performed in, won him the Academy Award for Best Director. Reds was more than just a critical triumph. It was a daring statement that Beatty was prepared to take artistic and financial chances in order to approach political and historical content with gravity and nuance. In 1990, he made a comeback with Dick Tracy, a modernized and graphically striking version of the beloved comic strip. The movie, which Beatty starred in and directed, was a commercial triumph and won multiple technical Oscars. The film demonstrated that Beatty's inventiveness had not diminished. It also confirmed his passion for daring storytelling and striking aesthetics. However, he mainly disappeared from public view after that, concentrating on political and social causes and making few appearances between 1991 and 1994. Bulworth, a scathing political satire that Beatty wrote, directed, and starred in, marked his comeback to the big screen in 1998. Critics commended the picture for its daring comments on media, race, and American politics. It was evident that Beatty was still prepared to confront audiences and address the topics that were important to him. Bulworth's conviction that movies have the ability to provoke thought-provoking conversation made him feel more like a statement than a simple film. After over 10 years, he made a comeback in 2016 with the film Rules Don't Apply, which he wrote, directed, and featured in. The narrative takes place in the 1950s. Hollywood tried to portray the glitz and chaos of the time by casting Beatty as tycoon Howard Hughes. Despite its poor box office performance, the movie was seen as a very personal endeavor that reflected Beatty's ongoing interest in control, power, and the inner workings of Hollywood. Beatty unexpectedly returned to the news in 2017, this time for his work as a presenter at the 89th Academy Awards, not a movie. When Moonlight was declared the winner, he and Faye Dunaway made the error of announcing La La Land as the finest film. The incident swiftly gained widespread attention and turned into one of the most iconic Oscar gaffes ever. However, Beatty handled the confusion with cool professionalism, proving that he could still handle live television with poise decades into his career. Warren Beatty's most significant disputes. Alongside his incredible success in Hollywood, Warren Beatty has faced a good deal of criticism and controversy. His professional achievements have made him one of the most well-respected individuals in American cinema, but his personal and professional failings have also garnered a lot of attention. In many respects, the public's infatuation with Beatty was strengthened by the controversies that surrounded him, which provided a more nuanced and relatable portrayal of a guy who was frequently portrayed as larger than life. In addition to his creative accomplishments, Beatty's life story is characterized by his ability, or occasionally inability, to avoid the traps of notoriety, vanity, and public opinion. Being a known womanizer was one of the first and most enduring features of Beatty's public persona. His name was regularly linked to some of the most well-known female celebrities in the entertainment business during the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. Numerous tabloid headlines and media rumors were stoked by high-profile relationships with Madonna, Cher, Diane Keaton, Natalie Wood, and Julie Christie. Beatty's love life became as much of a topic of conversation as any movie he featured in. Despite the fact that these partnerships were frequently voluntary and public, their sheer quantity created a certain impression that many critics and cultural observers found unsettling. Questions concerning Beatty's treatment of women were raised by this impression of him as a serial womanizer, particularly in light of Hollywood's power structures. Some perceived his dating history as indicative of a more profound pattern of emotional control and detachment, while others saw him as a captivating individual who merely relished the attention of equally powerful women. Celebrity rumors weren't the only thing that captivated the public. It touched on more general discussions concerning gender impact and the interactions between influential men and the women in Hollywood. Beatty had to deal with a narrative that he didn't always control because the media's obsession with his personal life frequently overshadowed his creative output. Then, in 2022, a far more grave charge surfaced, one that had the potential to fundamentally change how the public perceived Beatty. Warren Beatty was accused of sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl in the early 1970s while he was filming The Parallax View, according to a complaint. The now-adult complainant said that Beatty exploited her weakness and youth. The lawsuit petition states that the interactions were a part of a trend at that time rather than being individual incidents. The claim shocked the entertainment industry, especially since it was directed at a guy who, in spite of his reputation for womanizing, had thus far mostly escaped significant trouble. As of right now, Beatty is not facing any criminal charges, and he refuted the accusations. Despite continuous legal and public discussion, the case is still unresolved in the public record. Many observers felt that the lawsuit raised long-standing issues about the culture of Hollywood in the 1970s, when authority figures functioned with little scrutiny and lines were frequently blurred. Even though it is still legally unclear whether Beatty is guilty or innocent, the very fact that he is being accused has tarnished his reputation and forced people to reconsider how they have seen him over the years. In addition to his private life, Beatty has experienced public humiliation on live television, most notably at the 2017 Academy Awards. Beatty was assigned to present the Oscar for Best Picture alongside F.A. Dunaway. An ordinary moment swiftly devolved into one of the most tumultuous occasions in Oscar history. Owing to an error in the envelopes, La La Land was declared the winner rather than Moonlight, who was the true winner of Best Picture. The mistake was found live on stage as La La Land producers started their award speech, leaving Beatty and Dunaway obviously perplexed and agitated. Many viewers originally blamed Beatty and Dunaway for the mix-up, even though the accountants in charge of the envelopes were subsequently found to be at fault. The episode damaged their reputations for a short time and was the focus of innumerable headlines and jokes. Later, Beatty clarified that he had recognized the envelope was flawed but had been hesitant to address the matter in front of a live audience. The incident came to represent the unpredictability of live television. Even though Beatty wasn't at blame, the humiliation was nevertheless remembered by the general public. Another significant incident in Beatty's career began in 1987 when the high-profile comedy Ishtar, in which he co-starred with Dustin Hoffman, was released. The film, which was directed by Ella May, was meant to be an enjoyable, unusual adventure. But Ishtar ended up becoming one of the decade's most notorious box office flops. The picture was plagued by excessive expenses, script revisions, and production delays, which made it difficult to connect with both critics and viewers. Ishtar's response was so bad that it became a Hollywood shorthand for both creative and commercial failure. Even though the movie eventually developed a tiny cult audience, Beatty's career suffered significant harm. Beatty took a lengthy break from acting and directing as a result of the criticism, appearing to withdraw from the spotlight in order to collect herself. Town and Country, a love comedy that had multiple production difficulties and script changes, was Beatty's next big financial failure after Ishtar in 2001. Initially intended to be a humorous group production, the movie's budget skyrocketed to over $90 million, but its box office receipts came to less than $10 million. The movie received harsh criticism from critics and was dubbed one of the most expensive failures in Hollywood history. The movie's star, Beatty, was held partially responsible for the delays and general lack of focus. Even while many in the industry agreed that there were many uncontrollable problems with the production, Town and Country's failure reinforced the idea that Beatty's magic had worn off. Even while he was still valued for his past contributions to the film industry, many started to wonder if he could still be successful in a changing field. Numbers at the box office weren't the only consideration. It has to do with legacy. His recurrent financial setbacks felt like a sharp contrast to his earlier glory, since he had once transformed American filmmaking with Bonnie, Clyde, and Reds. Beatty's image was slightly restored when he returned to filmmaking in 2016 with Rules Don't Apply, but the long-lasting effects of these previous setbacks persisted. The Rise, Retreat, and Return of Goldie Hawn. A unique blend of timeless charm, comic genius, and a dedication to both public service and personal development can be seen in Goldie Hawn's life and career. Born in Washington, D.C., on November 21, 1945. She would later become one of the most well-known and adored characters in Hollywood as Goldie Jean Hawn. Her transformation from dancer to Academy Award-winning actress, and then to philanthropist and mental health champion, is evidence of her adaptability, tenacity, and unwavering individualism. Goldie started working as a professional dancer in New York City in 1964. She probably had no idea at the moment that millions of people would watch her future play out on big and small screens. Her approach to acting would be shaped by the movement, discipline, and performance arts that characterized her early days in show business. Soon after, however, the television industry called. Her breakthrough moment came with it. As a frequent cast member of NBC's Rowan and Martin's Logan, Hawn achieved widespread recognition by 1968. She quickly became a favorite due to her contagious laugh, humorous timing, and capacity to come across as both light-hearted and knowledgeable. Hawn was a welcome and captivating addition to a program that was known for its fast-paced comedy and unconventional humor. In a time when women's roles in comedy were frequently constrained and predictable, her presence helped redefine what it meant to be a humorous actress. A significant turning point in her career occurred the next year, 1969. Goldie Hawn's performance in Cactus Flower earned her the Golden Globe and Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Her range as a performer was demonstrated in this part, which went beyond her vivacious TV persona to reveal a complex and emotionally engaging character. The win cemented her move from television to movies and catapulted her into the spotlight of Hollywood fame. That instance demonstrated that her brilliance was not limited to a single genre or media. Goldie Hawn rose to prominence as one of the most bankable actresses in the business during the 1970s and 1980s. Commercially successful and frequently acclaimed by critics were movies like Private Benjamin, Foul Play, Shampoo, and Overboard. Her parts constantly struck a mix between heart and humor, frequently showing women negotiating identity, love, and independence in a society that was changing. She had an amazing talent for giving characters that may otherwise be undervalued courage, humor, and a relatable human side. The publication of Private Benjamin in 1980 was one of her most significant career turning points. In addition to being the movie's star, Hawn also acted as executive producer, which was unusual for actresses at the time. Her performance won her an Oscar nod for Best Actress, and the film was a critical and commercial triumph. The amusing and inspirational tale of a spoiled woman who enlists in the U.S. Army following her husband's passing struck a chord with viewers and helped to establish Hawn as an actor who could authentically and charmingly depict female empowerment. In 1983, while filming Swing Shift, Hawn started out a dating with fellow actor Kurt Russell. Their partnership became one of the maximum enduring and well-known in Hollywood. Despite in no way marrying, the couple has remained together for decades, elevating a blended circle of relatives and often running collectively on numerous tasks. Their courting constructed on mutual appreciation and private freedom has become an unprecedented example of lasting love inside the entertainment enterprise. In 123, Hawn shared her personal philosophy and lifestyles experiences via her memoir, A Lotus Grows in the Dust. The e-book supplied insight into her adventure, revealing a facet of Hawn that was deeply introspective and devoted to religious boom. It had become clear that her public picture as a comedic actress became best one facet of her identity. In the back of the laughs and bright green presence become a woman deeply engaged inside the internal work of knowledge herself and helping others. Years later, in 2005, Goldie Hawn launched the Hawn Basis, a nonprofit committed to promoting mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and well-being in kids. Through its flagship application, Thoughts Up, the Muse works with faculties and educators to help children construct resilience and emotional regulation talents. Hawn's commitment to intellectual fitness and education has been extensively praised, and the Muse's paintings has had a global effect. It marked a new bankruptcy in her legacy, one which moved beyond amusement to tangible social contribution. In 2020, Hawn reunited with Kurt Russell on display for the Christmas Chronicles 2, reprising her role as Mrs. Claus. The film presented a fantastic and heartwarming excursion revel in, and audiences embraced seeing the real existence couple share the screen yet again. It became a fitting example of the way Hawn has continued to balance career, love, and existence with a sense of pleasure and down-to-earth angle. Goldie Hawn's most talked about controversies. As Goldie Hawn's legacy keeps to shine via her work in movie, philanthropy, and public advocacy, her non-public existence has often captured just as an awful lot interest as her career. Recognized for her radiant strength, appeal, and authenticity, Hawn has never shied away from expressing her views or dwelling lifestyles on her own terms. However, with that freedom has additionally come scrutiny. One of the most steady speaking points at some stage in her decades-long partnership with actor Kurt Russell is their preference not to marry. Due to the fact that 1983, Hawn and Russell have been collectively raising a own family and sharing an existence without ever making it respectable in the eyes of the law. Even as many see their courting as a symbol of mutual recognize and enduring love, others have brazenly questioned why they have selected to remain single. The couple has been the problem of relentless tabloid speculation, with headlines often suggesting hidden issues or fears of dedication. But, Hawn has addressed this without delay and gracefully. In numerous interviews, she defined that their strength comes from making the aware selection to be with each other each single day, no longer due to the fact a criminal file binds them, however, because they honestly need to. This perspective, she believes, promotes independence inside a partnership, allowing both individuals the space to develop. Her view has resonated with many that see their dating as a refreshing alternative to traditional norms. Nevertheless, now not all of us concurs. The debate keeps in public forums and media stores, reflecting ongoing societal tensions, approximately what love and dedication must appear to be. Goldie Hawn's outspokenness hasn't stopped there. In 2018, all through the peak of the #MeTooMotion, Hawn supplied her mind in an interview that sparked an expansion of reactions. She expressed strong assist for the motion's intention of maintaining abusers accountable and creating more secure spaces for girls. However, she additionally shared a hope that the movement would not evolve into a way of life of huge generalizations or hostility in the direction of men. She emphasized the want for nuance and communicate, suggesting that even as change changed into late, it have to be rooted in equity and understanding. A few praised her for a balanced and thoughtful angle that advocated inclusive reform as opposed to division. Others, however, criticized her remarks, deciphering them as minimizing the actual and considerable effect of abuse inside the amusement industry and past. In a time while public figures have been anticipated to take clear, uncompromising stands, Hawn's nuanced stance stirred soreness in some circles. Her remarks highlighted how complicated and emotionally charged cultural conversations can become, particularly once they contain long-standing strength structures, non-public trauma, and calls for justice. During her career, Hawn has also faced reports of anxiety on movie sets. Those stories have regularly surfaced quietly without tons public scandal, however they speak to her recognition for being professionally assertive. One example consists of her time running with Chevy Chase at the 1980 comedy Seems Like Vintage Times. While the movie changed into successful, behind the curtain, innovative disagreements have been said to have befell. In addition, for the duration of the making of Dying Becomes Her, there had been reviews of friction among Hawn and co-celebrity Meyer Streep. These conflicts were no longer explosive, nor did they result in any career damage for Hawn, but they contemplated an aspect of her that a few within the enterprise have defined as unafraid to advise for herself and her imaginative and prescient. In an industry that frequently rewards compliance, especially from women, Hawn's dedication to be heard may have rubbed a few collaborators the incorrect manner. However, others have favored her self-assurance and unwillingness to compromise her values or expert integrity. Hawn's non-secular ideals have additionally drawn interest and at times skepticism. She has spoken openly approximately her connection to Buddhism, her belief in reincarnation and her commitment to mindfulness practices. These elements of her worldview aren't just private. They shape the muse of her philanthropic work through the Hawn Foundation and its Mind Up program. Designed to promote emotional learning and intellectual well-being for children, Mind Up incorporates mindfulness techniques rooted in each technology and non-secular lifestyle. While many dad and mom, educators, and intellectual fitness experts have praised the initiative, others have questioned the religious factors of Hawn's approach. Critics, consisting of some media commentators, have stated her perception device as Hollywood spiritualism and challenged its medical validity. They argue that mixing Jap philosophy with training can blur the road among religion and empirical exercise, in particular while the goal is to teach youngsters. Hawn, for her part, has remained steadfast in her advocacy, pointing to growing research in neuroscience and education that helps the value of mindfulness in enhancing cognizance, empathy, and emotional regulation. Her work on this space maintains to conform, and so too does the communication approximately how first-rate to guide children's intellectual and emotional fitness. One of the maximum painful and public chapters in Hawn's non-public lifestyles got here from a deeply personal battle along with her ex-husband, musician Bill Hudson. Hawn and Hudson were married from 1976 to 1982 and had youngsters together, Kate and Oliver Hudson. While Goldie went on to construct a strong and loving home with Kurt Russell, her courting with invoice Hudson have become strained. In 2015, Bill made headlines whilst he publicly criticized each Hawn and their kids. His remarks got here after Oliver published a Father's Day message on social media that noted Kurt Russell as his actual dad. The message as a heartfelt tribute to the person who raised him struck a nerve with Bill Hudson, who responded by asserting that Kate and Oliver had been useless to him. The emotional fallout from this very public rift became extensively protected inside the media and left many fans sympathetic to Goldie, Kurt, and their youngsters. Nonetheless, it was a stark reminder that in the back of the completely satisfied public image lies a complicated own family records marked through pain, misunderstandings, and estrangement. Goldie Hawn by no means publicly retaliated with anger or criticism, deciding on as a substitute to let her long-status actions as a discern and accomplice talk for themselves. Why Warren Beatty in no way married Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn, now alike determined. Known for her bubbling charm and sharp wit, surprised many fans at some stage in her appearance on Bravo's Watch What Takes Place Live. While asked approximately the maximum intimidating co-famous person she had ever worked with in her long and storied profession, Hawn didn't hesitate to name Warren Beatty. But what she added next genuinely captured the target market's interest. With a mischievous smile and a sparkle in her eye, Hawn admitted that during the filming in their 1971 movie Bucks, she had greater than a second with the famously good-looking and enigmatic actor. Her tone was playful, but her words hinted at something deeper. Something that for many years remained in the back of the polished facade of Hollywood partnerships. "We have been in Germany filming," she recalled. And nicely, Warren Beatty turned into Warren Beatty. The target audience laughed. But beneath her comment became a fact that shed new light on a chapter of both their lives. Beatty, for his component, has long been acknowledged for his romantic entanglements, however his connection with Goldie Hawn wasn't regularly spotlighted the way his other high-profile relationships had been. Now, however, it seems the mutual admiration between the two wasn't only a passing flirtation. In step with Hawn, there was true chemistry, something that could have developed into extra had the instances been distinctive. It is no mystery that Warren Beatty became considered one of Hollywood's maximum acceptable men in the course of the 60s and 70s, and Hawn's career becomes simply starting to upward thrust to large prominence in the course of that duration. But, regardless of their spark, the two in no way moved right into a serious dating, and that they definitely in no way married. Years later, whilst Warren Beatty himself became requested about his connection with Goldie Hawn and why they failed to emerge as collectively, he provided a rare and candid explanation. In an interview mentioned in several dependable retrospectives of his life, Beatty acknowledged that whilst Hawn changed into undeniably magnetic, they had been in very distinctive locations in their lives and careers. He defined her as notable, funny, and stunningly lovely, but additionally independent and level-headed in methods that made her a bit intimidating. Not in a bad manner, however, in a way that made me admire her deeply. Beatty admitted that the emotional maturity and self-possession that Hawn carried together with her weren't developments he became ready to embody on the time. "I wasn't organized for a person who did not want me," he reportedly stated. A revealing declaration for a man regularly visible at the center of each room he entered. At the same time as the general public may have predicted a dramatic affair among the two stars, what actually opened up becomes something some distance more nuanced. Beatty, in spite of his long-status reputation as a womanizer, had a positive honesty in his evaluation of why he failed to pursue an extreme courting with H. He mentioned that whilst lots of his romances were driven via the allure of ardor and novelty, his interaction with Goldie turned into distinct. There has been something there, he stated. But I think each folk sensed that we would not be capable of give every other what we wished at that time, and that is now not a terrible element. Goldie Hawn herself in several interviews through the years has alluded to the same concept. In a single communication, she remarked, Warren become quite charming. We had amusing, we laughed, and we labored properly together, however I was focused on my paintings, and I wasn't looking to be all of us next chapter. That independence has long been a defining characteristic of Hawn's public character, and it is a trait that she's carried into her decadesal-long dating with actor Kurt Russell. Their selection now not to marry has sparked conversations for years. But Hawn has always emphasized her perception in autonomy inside partnership. It's a perspective that seems to have also prompted her decision no longer to dive into an extra-serious relationship with Beatty regardless of their short romantic second. Their film Greenbacks might not be as widely remembered as some of their other projects, however it surely left an enduring effect on both actors. Filming in Europe, far from the pressures of Hollywood, created an environment in which connections were simpler to form, however additionally simpler to depart at the back of. For Hawn and Beatty, their brief romantic chapter wasn't considered one of heartbreak or scandal. It became one of knowledge, mutual admiration, and in recognition that timing frequently shapes the path of relationships. In later years, while asked about their almost relationship, Beatty confirmed no bitterness or remorse. In truth, he expressed a sort of respect for the way things turned out. Goldie and that I had a second. That second became real. But no longer every second wishes to end up an entire life, he stated in a retrospective compiled from interviews and archival materials. His reaction displays a degree of adulthood that wasn't constantly attributed to him at some stage in his younger years, but one that will become more visible with the benefit of hindsight.